What's up, everybody? Welcome to The Progenitor. This is the show where we go over a director's entire filmography, talking about themes, shots, pacing, and give a brief review all within 30 minutes. So let's get started. I'm going to go ahead and say spoiler alert going forward because we always talk about the plot and the themes of these films. And as you know, we are going over Ridley Scott's filmography. This next film is one of my all-time favorites. It is on my top 100 list of favorite films, and I love this movie. It is Gladiator, and I just remember as a kid, not even a kid, maybe a teenager, going with my entire family. We watched this at the Cinemark in Plano, Texas, near Park and Preston. For those of you that know Plano, Texas, or are from Texas. But I just love this film because right off the bat, they throw you into this war between the Germanians and the Roman Empire led by Maximus Decimus Meridius from Spain, actually. He's like a Spaniard that commands the Roman army. And it's so epic. The sound is amazing. The music is amazing. And Russell Crowe just has this aura of great leadership. And right off the bat, I fell in love with Ridley Scott. This is actually probably the first Ridley Scott film that I remember watching in the theater. And from here on out, I would continue to do so because I just loved his visual splendor. I loved his style. And of course, we're going to get into it. But I'm not the only one that loved this film. You know, the Academy Awards loved it too. This particular film won 5 Academy Awards at the 73rd Academy Awards ceremony. That includes Best Picture, Best Actor for Russell Crowe, Best Costume Design, Best Sound, and Best Visual Effects, which we will kind of get into in terms of the visual effects. It was also nominated for Best Film Editing. We'll go into that. Best Cinematography, Best Art Direction, Best Original Score by Hans Zimmer, and Best Screenplay written directly for the screen, Best Director for Ridley Scott, and Best Supporting Actor. And unfortunately, it was a very tight contest. I do not remember who was up for those particular awards, but it won 5, so I'm happy for that. Although I would say, come on, Ridley. I mean, come on, folks. Ridley deserves an Oscar for Best Director. Sooner or later, they got to give him a consolation prize like they gave Martin Scorsese for The Departed. But yeah, let's get into the credits a little bit. So this film was directed, of course, by Ridley Scott. It was produced by Douglas Wick, who also produced Hollow Man, Spy Game, Jarhead. It was also produced by David Franzoni and Branko Lustig. I don't really know how to say his name. Lustig. And he produced Schindler's List. The screenplay was written by David Franzoni, who also wrote King Arthur and Amistad. It was also written by John Logan. He did The Last Samurai, one of my all-time favorite Tom Cruise period pieces. He also wrote The Aviator, Hugo, 2 of Martin Scorsese's greats, and Alien Covenant. So he'll come back and work with Ridley Scott on that Alien Covenant. And William Nicholson wrote it as well. So there's 3 credited writers. William Nicholson wrote Les Miserables, which unfortunately was not that great of a movie. And this screenplay was based off of a story by David Franzoni. Now the music was, of course, by Hans Zimmer and Lisa Gerrard. So everyone knows what Hans Zimmer is all about, Dark Knight trilogy, almost every single Christopher Nolan film until Tenet. So he's got this great score for this film along with Lisa Gerrard. If you don't know Lisa Gerrard, she kind of has this ethereal voice. She sang in The Insider, Mission Impossible 2, Ali, Man on Fire. She's always got that voice that rides above the music. It's a very soft, it sounds ethnic. It's a very soothing voice, and they combine their talents to make this epic score. Next up, you got cinematography by John Matheson. Now, John Matheson, we'll get into him a little more because he continues to work with Ridley Scott. But some other films he shot include X-Men First Class and The Man from U.N.C.L.E. He did work a lot with Guy Ritchie after this, but moving forward, you got production design by Arthur Max. Now, Arthur Max, he's done a bunch of films for Ridley Scott, and after a while, you start to look at his work, and he's very, very good at these period pieces. But at the same time, he's very good at these dark cityscapes. So, for example, he did production design for Seven and Panic Room. So that kind of gives you an idea of this darkness, but also, he's going to come back to Ridley Scott. He's going to do a lot more period pieces, and he likes working in the desert. These guys work together in Jordan, shooting in Jordan or Morocco many times. So that's kind of his background going forward. And finally, the film was edited by Pietro Scalia. He edited G.I. Jane, Good Will Hunting, The Big Hit, one of my all-time favorite action comedies with Mark Wahlberg. It's kind of like a pastiche of a Jean Woo film and hilarity. So it's a really funny movie if you haven't seen it. But guess what? We have Ridley Scott back as camera operator. Now, he hasn't been credited. Well, he was uncredited in this movie. And normally he does work with the camera a lot, especially you'll see shots of him in Blade Runner and Alien. But he was a credited camera operator in The Duelist, the first film he directed, feature film, which we already talked about. And he's back as an uncredited camera operator on The Gladiator. Not really sure what shots he worked on, but again, this is one of my all-time favorites, so I'm hoping he did a lot of shots. Anyways, moving forward, all-star cast we got on this film. Come on, Russell Crowe, LA Confidential, The Insider, Proof of Life. Yes, I did say Proof of Life. This guy, he just disappears into every single role he's in. He comes off gruff, mean, but also in this particular film, he is very vulnerable. And, it's just a really great performance because he has a strong side, he's got the soft side, and he has the side where he's doubting himself. So at the end of the day, I remember there used to be this magazine, this comic book magazine called Wizard. And in this magazine, they were casting Batman The Long Halloween because they normally had these stunt casting articles. And I remember, dang, man, I do remember they put Russell Crowe as Batman, and thinking about it, I was like, oh yeah, Russell Crowe would kill as Batman. Because he kind of has like this suave side to him throughout the movie where he's joking around with politicians at the beginning, when he's meeting his soldier friends, or when he's flirting with Lucilla. Not really flirting, but remembering their past and such. So he's got like this little charming side to him, but then he's got this ferocious, angry, violent general side, leader side to him as well. The confident leader. So I always agreed with that. And not only that, he's physically freaking imposing in this film. Next up, you have Joaquin Phoenix, who ended up being the Joker, but before that, he was in a bunch of M. Night Shyamalan films like The Signs and The Village. He worked with Paul Thomas Anderson in The Master and Inherent Vice. And one of the great things about Joaquin Phoenix's performance is just the vulnerability. I mean, this guy's cruel. He's crazy. You just look at his face. There's something off about him. He always seems to have the clockwork in his brain is constantly moving. So there's always this internal struggle within that character, and you always see it in Joaquin Phoenix's eyes. And he's such a great actor, and he's really good in this role. I'm going to have to look back at that list of the 73rd Academy Awards to see who he lost to, but it better have been a really good performance because Joaquin Phoenix is great in this film. Next up, you got Connie Nielsen. I really love her in this film. Each character is always strong and vulnerable, and this is the case with her as well. Russell Crowe, Joaquin Phoenix, who, let me go back to Joaquin Phoenix because he has this amount of lunacy in his performance which kind of leads to the future where when he actually plays the Joker in Joker by Todd Phillips. But anyways, going back to Connie Nielsen, she was in Rushmore, Wonder Woman, Nymphomaniac, which is really weird. That movie is really weird. Lars von Trier. So moving on, Oliver Reed, you got The Brood, Adventures of Baron Munchausen, The League of Gentlemen, and that was directed by, I believe, Basil Dearden back in the 70s or 60s. Moving forward, Derek Jacoby. Now, he plays one of the senators in this film, but previously he played in Hamlet, in Gosford Park, which is a great Altman film, The King's Speech. Ugh, I can't believe that won Oscars. And I don't know why I wrote this title down, Tomb Raider, but I guess he was in the what's her name? The reboot to Tomb Raider, not the Angelina Jolie one. Man, I'm gonna hate myself for not remembering her name because she's a great actress. But moving forward, Jaimin Hansu, everyone knows that guy from Stargate, Blood Diamond, Guardians of the Galaxy. Then you have Richard Harris in one of his last performances. Now, Richard Harris, he was in Unforgiven with Clint Eastwood. He was in, I believe, Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, the first one. And he's one of those English legends. He was one of those legendary drinkers. But he's amazing in this film. I love him in this film. And of course, Tommy Flanagan. Tommy Flanagan plays Maximus's kind of like a butler. Someone who's by his side constantly and helps him do errands and chores. Not a butler, though, because I believe he's also kind of a soldier. But yeah, he works for Russell Crowe's character. But if you don't know Tommy Flanagan, he was in Braveheart. He was one of the Scotsmen. Actually, he's the Scotsman whose wife was the first wife to get prima nocta'd on in that film. So yeah, sad moments. But anyways, we're going to Ridley Scott collaborations. And as I mentioned, this is actually the beginning of a fruitful relationship with John Matheson. You're going to see John Matheson return as cinematographer in maybe 4 or 5 or maybe 6 films. I got to recheck that. But you also have Pietro Scalia returning, Hans Zimmer returning. And this is the beginning of a long-running actor-director relationship with Russell Crowe. Unfortunately, that's going to end with Robin Hood, but hopefully they get back together sooner or later because I love when they work together because there's something about Russell Crowe and Ridley Scott and bringing out this sort of intensity that doesn't often get caught by other directors, but they're a very good collaboration, I would say. And then this is also the second film of a long collaboration with Arthur Max. As I mentioned, Arthur Max is the production designer. The first film they worked together was G.I. Jane, which I completely missed, but we're going back to remedy that. And as I said, Arthur Max really likes the desert. They worked together in Jordan and Morocco, shooting a lot of different movies together. I believe this guy did Kingdom of Heaven, and I'm pretty sure he did Black Hawk Down. I'm going to have to look back at it, but, when you have a very good collaboration, you're definitely going to want to stick with that because they pretty much understand each other so well by that point. Moving forward, my favorite section is Wife's Corner, and unfortunately we watched this movie so long ago I can't even remember what she thought of it, but I do remember she said she watched the first half and it was so bloody that she couldn't do it when she was younger, so I forced her to watch the rest of the movie. So what's great about this is, my wife loves movies, but she likes fun movies. She likes animated films. Couple weeks ago, we watched Addams Family 2, which I fell asleep on, but she enjoyed it great. So it shows the diversity that I'm able to bring to her. Because I love all these dark, gritty action films and such. So it's kind of a learning experience for her. But moving forward, because we got a lot to talk about, let's do themes. Empower female characters. Ding, ding, ding. Yes, again, we're back to this. Lucilla. She may seem like a damsel in distress, but she's a smart cookie. She's maneuvering in the background. She's planning a coup, but at the same time, although she gets caught, she has to survive. So she'll adapt just to survive, to protect her child, which is another theme that we're going to get into. But she is a very strong female character, and at the end of the film, she survives, guys. She's one of the only survivors of the top 3 cast members: Russell Crowe, Joaquin Phoenix, and Connie Nielsen. Next up, nature space is a hostile and uncontrollable environment. Ding, ding, ding. This whole movie is about conquering new territories and places where the inhabitants are hostile. So at the beginning, you got the Germanians. They hate the Romans for coming into their territory. Not only that, once Maximus is stripped of his home, he gets brought into the gladiator world, and these people don't like him. And at the same time, he's also in the desert. The desert doesn't like him. And then finally, you get into Rome. Rome itself, as a city, is an antagonist, because you have all these people that represent Rome, like all the constituents, and then you have all the senators. You don't know whose side everyone is on. So all these areas, all these places he put into, they're all hostile in a sense. Next up, the only way to survive is to adapt. Ding, ding, ding. So Maximus' life is a soldier. And then guess what? He was a farmer before that. Well, he had to adapt to become a soldier. He had to adapt to become a slave. He had to adapt to become a gladiator. And guess what? At the end of the day, he gave back Rome its true face. And he's not even a Roman. He's a Spaniard. So he just adapted, moved on. Another one of these characters is Lucilla. Like I said before, Lucilla adapted, maneuvered around her crazy brother, never gave in to his sexual advances, and survived at the end of the day. Then you have Quintus, one of the Roman soldiers that used to work for Maximus. Guess what? That guy just betrayed a whole bunch of people he honored, and he got to move on up. He sold out Maximus, and then he found out Commodus was crazy, and then he went back to Maximus, and then he survived. And then you got Juba. Juba sees Maximus as a character that can lead him to survive. So he adapts and he teams up with Maximus. And guess what? He lives as well. So out of the top 3, only Lucilla wins, but all the supporting cast, they survive because they adapted, they teamed up with the right people, and they just moved forward with their lives. So there you go. Ding, ding, ding. Age does not mean a thing. Ding, ding, ding. Commodus kills his dad and outsmarts all of Roman royalty until he gets killed by Maximus. Next up, do not trust rich people. Ding, ding, ding. So far, all of Ridley Scott's films has this theme, and it keeps getting harsher and harsher throughout the rest of his filmography, leading up to a movie that's even called All the Money in the World. So anyways, do not trust rich people. Ding, ding, ding. As I said, it's the people in power that scheme, like Commodus or Senator Falco. He's the one that works with Commodus. They want more power. And guess what? They are the richest people. Commodus is the emperor, quote unquote, and Senator Falco is a senator who, quote unquote, represents the people, but is actually just trying to get more power and more prestige. And that's what it's all about for these people. Number 6, violence don't solve a thing, brains do. Ding, ding, ding. In the end, this movie is all about violence. That's what makes it great, because it's so well shot. But come on, if Maximus was not such a great strategist, and he was not such a great leader, then this movie could not have moved forward, because the opening war scene would have been completely devastating towards the Roman Empire. The barbarians would have decimated them if they didn't have good leadership and good strategy. And by the end of the film, Maximus has to outsmart a bunch of people. I know, he gets caught at the end of the day, but this is the one where he fights back and he has to use his brain. At the same time, Senator Falco and Commodus, they strategize to find out who the traitor is. Again, they use their brain. Now, Commodus did not use his brain when he decided to fight Maximus one-on-one. But he kind of did, because Commodus cheated a bit, not realizing, even with a little cheating, Maximus is still the better fighter. So at the same time, violence does solve some things, but without the brains, you're gonna miss out on a bunch. Happy wife, happy life, sort of. Ding. See, Maximus's wife is murdered, and that's not a very happy wife, and that leads to not a very happy life. And at the same time, I'm wondering, hey, if Maximus just stayed as a farmer, maybe they would have been happier. Who knows? Next up, Distrust of Authority. Ding, ding, ding. Again, Commodus, crazy. Senator Falco, crazy. All the other senators are scheming in the background, crazy. So Maximus had this one quote that says something about being able to look his enemy in the eye. That's a very important quote because he's criticizing senators. He's criticizing the politicians in Rome because he would rather look his enemies in the eye before he kills them. Anyways, money is coveted. Ding, ding, ding. Oliver Reed's character, Proximo, is all about money because at the beginning he was a slave. He wanted all the pleasures in the world, but at the end, he puts that aside because he remembers honor. And he remembers that Marcus Aurelius, played by Richard Harris, is the one who freed him. So he dies an honorable and free man. And I believe he sees a kindred spirit in Maximus because Proximo could have just let Maximus keep fighting and dying, or he could have just let Maximus just do his thing, but he told Maximus how to become a true gladiator. You got to win the crowd. And if he didn't care about Maximus, he wouldn't have done that. So at the end of the day, this movie is kind of saying money can only get you so far, like the senators, like Proximo was. But there's more to life than money. Battle of the Sexes. Again, Lucilla survives. Not much else to say there. Do not trust robots/androids. These films up to this point, from Blade Runner on, have not had any androids. So unfortunately, I will say Senator Falco is kind of like one of those logical evil characters. So he's kind of like a real life android. I'll give you that. And finally, this is actually a new theme, the afterlife, death/God. This is the first film where, I mean, it's been building up, guys. Every single Ridley Scott film has had death and violence in it, okay? What I mean are these shots of Maximus walking through the wheat fields or praying. It's not a huge theme, but it's going to be coming back. Because in a way, Ridley Scott is going to start asking these questions. Where do we come from? Why are we here? So I did write something. Even Maximus is lifted and raised when he dies at the end, after he sacrificed his life to free the people and fulfill Marcus Aurelius's final wish. Yeah, I mean, this is going to be something that continues to build up, especially in Prometheus and Alien Covenant. And Kingdom of Heaven, especially. So we'll be coming back to these themes of faith as well. That's something that's going to be building up. Now, I got a bunch of notes here, so let me pick out a couple. So at 10 minutes and 6 seconds, this is the exact shot when Maximus beheads one of the Germanians against a tree. Awesome. At 12 minutes, 26 seconds, Marcus Aurelius lifts up his sword and yells out, Roma Victoria. Going back a little bit, at 11 minutes and 30 seconds, you got some speed ramping. Fast forward, slow-mo, just a little bit of that speed ramping just to accentuate the violence going on. Now, let's see what else we got. There's a lot of smirking between all the characters. So I'm not going to go into that. But at 35 minutes and 43 seconds, Commodus kills his father. Now, I equated this with Batty killing Tyrell in Blade Runner because essentially they're kind of doing the same thing. Although Batty crushes Tyrell's head, Commodus kind of just chokes his father out in his robes, kind of. So there's that. At 40 minutes and 41 seconds, oh, this is awesome. Maximus just throws a sword at this bad dude and kills him. So that's always fun. At an hour, 40 minutes and 38 seconds, okay, so throughout the film, Maximus goes through all these trials and tribulations, and then he's brought in to this gladiator group. They go to Rome, they're fighting, and then he befriends one of these Germanians that actually he saves the guy's life. And now that they're in Rome, everyone knows who he is because he does his really famous, he says his name at an hour, 31 minutes, and 18 seconds. He says, I am Maximus Decimus Meridius. He goes through all of that. So everyone knows who he is. But he's made a friend with this Germanian gladiator because he saves his life. And at an hour, 40 minutes, and 38 seconds, the German is pretending to be a taste tester for Maximus. And he tastes the food because everyone's like, oh, you shouldn't eat it. You're in Rome. Someone might try to poison your food. And then at 1 hour, 40 minutes, and 38 seconds, the German tries the food and pretends he's about to die from poisoning. And then he starts laughing. So it's a good little twist of events. And another thing, this movie is very straightforward. There's no twists and turns except for closer to the end. You see everything coming though, which is fine. One of the only things that I have against this movie is kind of the length. And then I kind of go back to this over and over again. He likes to do establishing shots of cities or whatnot. But in Gladiator, when they get to Rome, a lot of it is actually poorly done in terms of CGI. Because there's no way you can go back in time for the original Colosseum or the original splendor of Rome. So unfortunately, it stands out more, especially when you're watching it from a TV. When it's on a movie screen, you got all of this fidelity, you have all this space, so you can't really pay attention. But when you're on a TV, when you're watching it on a TV, everything's shrunken down a little bit, and you can see a little more of the veneer of falsity, basically the CGI-ness of it. Man, there's so many great shots, though. I could do a whole episode on shots. This whole movie is great to watch. At 2 hours and 5 minutes and 30 seconds, Lucilla and Maximus finally kiss. Now, why I wanted to include that shot is mainly because there's these two characters. Both of them have been through so much. Maximus has been through so much because he's seen death, so much death. Lucilla has been through so much because she's seen the death of her father, but also has seen the scheming of her brother. And this kiss is more of a finally, this might be over. And we used to love each other. We've lost so much. I want to share this with you. It's kind of like a bittersweet moment. Now, they don't have a sex scene or anything. This isn't like Braveheart in that sense, where two people need each other. They don't need each other, but, they want to feel that pleasure, that passion. But there's still a little bit of passion left between Maximus and Lucilla, and they share it with a kiss. And I thought that was very sweet. And what else do we have? Okay, 2 hours and 18 minutes and 22 seconds. Commodus stabs Maximus on the side before they go into the gladiator ring to fight each other. And Maximus does his little sand trick at 2 hours, 19 minutes, and 39 seconds. This is the 5th time he's done it. So throughout the movie, there's this motif of Maximus touching the ground of the area where he's fighting and just smoothing his hands with that sand, maybe to get some grip, but also to feel one, I guess, with the earth. Because one of these days he's going to return to it, right? So he does that, they fight, and I remember at 2 hours, 22 minutes, and 4 seconds, he does this freaking crazy fight combo where it's a back fist, and then he goes into a left hook or a right hook or something, which takes all the momentum. It brings Commodus down. Commodus grabs a knife, tries to shove it towards Maximus. Maximus does this lock and parries it and then moves it close to Commodus. Commodus is starting to panic. And then in the end, Commodus is panicking so much and Maximus is moving so close that Maximus ends up stabbing him. The movie ends with Lucilla saying, honor him, and then Juba buries these replica dolls of Maximus's wife and son for Maximus as he passes away. And again, such a great film. I know a lot of people are saying, it's Gladiator. It's all right. They have some really great war scenes, but there's not much to it. There's a lot more than you would imagine, and it's definitely worth a rewatch for those that haven't watched it. The action is amazing. The music is amazing. I love this film. And honestly, I've been going back to rank all these films, and so far Blade Runner is my all-time favorite Ridley Scott film, especially the final cut, but this one is in the top 5. I know that might be blasphemous to some people, but it is in the top 5. And again, folks, we're coming up to the next movie. Next movie will be Hannibal. So honestly, I don't remember where to watch Hannibal because I got it on. Where did I get it? I got it on iTunes, and there was a deal, $20 for Silence of the Lambs and Hannibal. So if you want to go that way, it might still be there. But let me see. I'm going on my letterbox right now. Hannibal is not one of my favorites, but yeah, you're gonna have to spend money, folks. So you can probably rent it on Amazon or iTunes for $3.99. But I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.